Continuing with section 5.7, we have 10y to the 7th over negative 2y to the 10th. So simplifying that, we would have 10 divided by negative 2, and that would give us a negative 5. Subtracting the y's, we would end up with y cubed in the bottom since 10 was larger. So my answer is negative 5 over y cubed. You have to be very careful here because it's tricky. The 5 is okay being negative because it's considered a coefficient. It's not an exponent. You only have to move negative exponents. My next rule is the power rule. So raising to a power, we would have 6 squared and x to the 4th squared, and that's all over x to the 11th, and it's not squared. So 6 squared is 36. Raising our powers here, we would get x to the 8th and x to the 11th. Simplifying here, we would get a 36 in the top. Subtracting our exponents, we get 11 minus 8 gives us 3 in the bottom. 36 over x cubed. Although our next two problems on the slide look similar, they're not. So we have 3/4 to the negative 2. 3/4 inside the parentheses doesn't simplify. So that means we're going to raise 3 to the negative 2, and we're also going to raise 4 to the negative 2. A negative 2 exponent tells us to move this 3, so it's going to move to the bottom. A 4 to the negative 2 tells me to move this one to the top. So 4 squared in the top would be 16, and 3 squared in the bottom would be 9, and my answer would be 16 over 9. The next problem on the slide said x to the 8th over x to the 2nd. Those two will simplify in parentheses, and we know our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally line talks about simplifying parentheses first. So I would say 8 over 2 would give me x to the 6th, and that would be raised to the negative 5 power. Now I can use my power rule, and my power rule says to multiply. So this would give me x to the negative 30, and x to the negative 30 moves to the bottom, so that would be 1 over x to the 30. And that's what I would get with that one. We only have two left. This is one we've actually worked before in section 5.5, so we're going to revisit that. We're going to raise everything to the, we're going to separate it down into 4 pieces. So we have 16 x to the 5th over 2x cubed. My second term is a negative 9 x to the 4th over 2x cubed plus 8x cubed over 2x cubed plus 6 over 2x cubed. Each of the 4 fractions will simplify. The first one's easy. 16 divided by 2 would give me an 8 with 2 x's left. Minus 9 over 2, those two terms don't reduce, so you'll just leave it as a 9 over 2. You'll see that there's one x left in the top. 8 divided by 2 would give me 4, and the x's cancel out. 6 divided by 2 would give me 3, and there's an x cubed in the bottom, and it stays in the bottom. Now this ugly answer with part fractions and part whole numbers, that's your final answer. You don't try to put it all together. That's what it ends with. That's how it looks. So make sure you don't try to put it all together. That's not what the problem's asking you to do. It wants you to simplify the pieces. Okay, so this last one I've written twice because I'm going to mark all over it, but you have a negative 5, x to the 4th, y 10th, z to the negative 3, over 15, x to the negative 2, y to the 8th, z to the 8th. Negative exponents have to move. So this x to the negative 2 is actually going to go to the top. I'm going to cross it out. This z to the negative 3 here actually has to go to the bottom. And then we can simplify what's left. I start out by saying negative 5 over 15, and that's going to reduce down. Reducing by 5, negative 5 goes into 5, 5 goes into negative 5 negative 1 time, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. So it leaves you with a negative 1 over 3. If you look at your x's, you'll see that your x is on the same side. And since your x's are on the same side, you're going to add them up. So you have 4 x's in the top and 2 x's in the top. So that gives you 6 x's in the top. 4 plus 2. You'll say, well, when do you add and when do you subtract? If they're on the same side, like these were, you add them up. They go together. There's 6 total x's in the top. Looking at your y's, they're on opposite sides. So since they're on opposite sides, these two, the y-10th and the y-8th, we would actually subtract. 10 y's minus 8 y's would leave us with 2 y's in the top. Lastly, we have our z's. I have 8 z's in the bottom and 3 z's in the bottom, which would give me 11 z's in the bottom, adding those up. Now this answer, negative 1/3 x to the 6y squared over z to the 11th, that's a great answer. You could have also chosen to write it this way with a negative 3 in the bottom. That's a good answer as well. Either one would be just fine.